Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the final part of the topic of weak squares, at least for now. Here I just prepared some exercises for you to solve and test your knowledge, which you hopefully accumulated over the last few videos I made on this topic. And here we have in front of us a game between Vasily Smyslov and Rudakovsky Josif. And here it is white to move. Black has just captured something on c4, and it is your move here, and you should decide what to play here as white. So Smyslov here went for bishop g5, which is the correct solution, and as we already saw in an earlier example, here it's all about this d5 square here, and white should eliminate the only piece which defends this square on d5, which is the knight on f6, and therefore Smyslov went bishop g5, and after rook f8, bishop takes f6, and knight d5, and now we got the perfect domination here with the knight on d5, which cannot be contested by black's bishop. This bishop is horrible, by the way, it doesn't do anything, and yeah, black went passive with bishop d8. If he would take on c2, then rook c1 would come, and white could at least pick up this exchange here. One of those you could choose if you want to take the rook on e8 or on a8. Black went bishop d8, but after c3, b5, b3 now, queen c5 check, king h1. White consolidated everything, the pawns are perfectly guarded, and white can simply slowly develop a kingside attack here. The queen is not helping at all, defending the black king, so white's forces should go over here. For example, rook f3, rook g3, as we will now see. Rook c8 came, rook f3, king h8, and now f6. White decided to call it a day. Obviously, you need to calculate pretty well when you play a move like this. I would also think about playing something like queen g3 maybe, and just slowly improve your position. Maybe queen g4, rook h3, queen h5 could also be ideas, but white decided it's already time to strike with f6, and after g takes f6, queen h4, g8, knight takes f6, threatening mate on h7 here, rook g7, rook g3. Again, white is threatening to take on h7, for example, after queen f2, we have a nice checkmate here. After rook g8, black took on f6, but after queen f6, rook g8, rook d1, d5, rook g7 here. Black resigned, he's just completely paralyzed. We are threatening to take on d6, and yeah, here he resigned because after rook g7, we can simply take on d5 and give checkmate on d8 on the next move. So this was the first example. I hope you enjoyed it, and I also hope that you found this idea with bishop g5, just eliminating the defender on f6. Here we have the next example, which I have prepared, a game between two strong female players, Jürgen Svera, German player, and Moser Eva, legendary Austrian player who sadly passed away recently. She was the strongest Austrian female player which ever lived, and her achievements were just remarkable. And in this game, she also displayed her immense abilities. And yeah, here it's black to move, and she found a very nice plan here for black to take advantage of a weak square, which I will not yet say which one it is. So yeah, you can try and solve it now. And the solution is knight d7, which was played by Moser Eva, and she just saw that the knight belongs to c4. This square is weak in white's camp, and from here the knight would attack the bishop on e3 and the pawn on a3, and the knight is simply placed really well on c4. So knight e5, knight c4 is the plan. White played f4, but funnily enough, this still doesn't stop knight e5, which was also played in the game, because after f takes e5, d takes e5, now the queen is kind of trapped. Not only kind of, it forces white to play knight d5, and after e takes d5, e takes d5, we have again the same material, but now very important, black is in time to play rook c8 and hit this pawn on c2 again, and now again, still this square on c4 is weak. If it were white's move here, let's say black does nothing, then c4 and white would be the first one to strike. Now she can play c5 and d6 next with a winning position for white, or at least a great position for white. So rook c8 was important here to stop c4 and c5. Game continued, rook d2, knight f6, queen f5, queen c4, and now we see that the pawn on d5 will drop, and now after knight takes d5, white's king is also weak and her pieces were not coordinated pretty well, and after bishop d4, threatening mate on g7, bishop f6, queen h5, bishop d4. Now also there is always this threat of knight e3, for example, after knight takes d4, there's knight e3, hitting the king and the rook on f1. So white took on f7, but Eva Moser simply played king h8, and after king h1, now she's simply a piece up, and her opponent resigned here after rook takes c2. Now also the knight on e2 is falling. So knight d7 was very strong. She realized that the knight should come to c4, where there is a very nice square waiting for the knight, and again this nice trick with f4 knight e5 was also something to be very proud of. So a very good game by Moser Eva. This is the last example of weak squares, which I've prepared for you, a game between Viktor Korchnoi and Lev Polugayevsky, and in this position it is white to move, And again, it's your time to stop the video and have a think here. Viktor Korchnoi found the right continuation, and he played g4, which is very strong. The idea is, first of all, to kick out this knight from f5, but the real deep idea behind it is that after takes, knight h4, now Korchnoi plays g5, and now he found this square on f6 for the knight, and he's already winning material by force, basically, because black cannot allow the knight to appear on d6. So Pologievsky took on f1 and gave the exchange with rook takes e4, but after bishop takes e4, white is simply an exchange up and decided the game. Shortly after that, bishop c2, rook e2, queen f5, queen d2, everything is protected. Bishop on c2 is hanging, so queen g4 check. Rook g2 would simply block the check and win the bishop on the next move. So black played bishop e4, but after queen e3, bishop g4 check. King f2, the king is pretty safe on e1 now, and after rook f2, white is the one attacking. Queen g1 check, rook f1, queen c5, and after queen e8 check here, black resigned, because whenever the king moves, there's rook f7 with checkmate. So d4 was the right solution, and in this position it's not that obvious yet that the f6 square will be decisive, but only 3 moves later, after g5, we can see the knight will come to f6 with the decisive outcome. So thank you for watching this whole series on weak squares. I hope you learned a lot, and if you did so, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, it would help me out a lot. You can also visit me on my social media, on Instagram, Twitter, on my website felixburger.com, and yeah, until then, see you in the next video.